So Dr. Cox, are you working anywhere or did you retire?
No, I left Deep Springs and I'm working in water right now. No, went over to the VA.
Pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. So we have roll call. Tony Henry. Lori Grant.
Star Jensen.
Roger Cox.
We have a quorum. That brings us to item number 4, call to the audience. I have received none, so then that we will move on to item number 5, reports.
Board President Henry, members of the board, we have several brief reports this evening. First, I neglected to talk at our last board meeting about the safety summit that was held on June 5th. We had members from basically every local first responder organization, NASDAQ, Kingman, PD, Mojave County Health, Golden Valley, Lake Ranchos in Dolan Springs, plus representatives from each school, and we visited about our emergency operations plan. We had examples of cameras on buses and in schools and our procedures, and it was an excellent dialogue. We do appreciate Board Member Jensen coming to the meeting, and she may make a few remarks at the end of the board meeting on that. So we're going to continue that dialogue and the relationship we have with the community resources. They're an excellent group of representatives. Second, I want to give a shout out to Executive Director Shelley Eastman, Liz Alvin, Vicki Trujillo, Wendy Kuffleitner, and the entire academic services team for our new teacher induction that started today at 8 o'clock this morning. There were about 30 new teachers with us and a wonderful group of folks who are excited to work for Kingman Unified School District. It takes a lot from the HR department onboarding to the academic services, sharing our curriculum and everything that goes with it, to the principals receiving them on campus. And I think so far so good. That will continue tomorrow. The next two portions of the board report will be presented by Executive Director Jones.
Thank you. So our transition from Chartwells to SFE is going well. There were a couple hiccups in the very beginning. They didn't get their food delivery on time. So the first day they scrambled a little bit, but we were still able to get breakfast and lunch served. So since then everything is going well. Out of 50 employees that Chartwells had, only 4 have chosen not to return. And I think that's great. One of them, it was for medical reasons. Another one got a summer job that they decided to stay with. And one of them is returning to the district as a para. And all of the employees that returned and joined SFE got a 3% raise as well over what they had before. And any of them who had health benefits with Chartwells was offered benefits with SFE as of day 1 without any probationary period. So that was great of them to be able to offer all of that. So KSD, we still have free lunch in the park for the rest of this week. And then SFE will begin training for all of the new staff for the school year, the 11th and 12th of this week as well. And KUSD's application for CEP, or the Community Eligibility Provision, was approved. And that we talked about at the board workshop. Where all students at all of our schools will receive free breakfast and lunch. We're really excited about that. Tanya Green, the food service manager, saw that we were eligible. She filled out all the paperwork, all the requirements applied, and was very diligent to make sure that we got that approval. So that's really exciting.
Yes.
The other update is on just the tax credits that was discussed at the last meeting. And you guys each should have received a spreadsheet in the board packet. Sorry, lost my papers. So just a little explanation. The tax credit donations are reported to the state per calendar year, not fiscal year. So that's why it was divided up on the spreadsheet that way for you guys. Donations will roll over every year if they're not spent. That way the schools can kind of save up and buy something larger or more expensive. And so that's why some of the school's expenditures for the year of 2023, for the calendar year of 2023, were more than what they received for that year.
Thank you for that explanation.
Yeah.
Can I ask a dumb question? I think it's dumb.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize we switched over from Chartwells to SFB. And so when did that happen?
When that was a special board meeting.
Okay, so
That-
that was, I wasn't there.
Was she not there?
Ah,
I believe it was
It
Tony.
was one of the daytime and
Okay.
one star.
okay. Well, good, now I
Yes.
feel so like lost.
Right, it's going great.
They asked lots of questions about the employees, and all of the things that she just addressed were questions they had and concerns.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, if there's any other questions on that, then I'm happy to research or find out for you guys.
Anything else?
That's all I had.
Any other questions? Well, thank you.
Yes.
Those are great reports. We're happy to hear the safety aspect and free lunches for our students. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, that moves us to item number 6, to approve the approval of routine orders of business. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
A motion on the table, a second. Is there any discussion or questions?
So did we come up with a final suggestion for the fundraisers? Are we accepting months or dates?
Yes, and yes. So, the form has a place for the year. The year should definitely be on it, even though by nature of being on the agenda, it sort of discloses the year. But the year will be required, but they can use the month or a span of time.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so we're glad to hear that, but the question that I would have then is, how does that help with the accountability of making sure that deposits get done in that timely manner?
That's a great question.
If we've approved a fundraiser that's gonna happen in the month of this, but it happens on a specific day,
That's a wonderful question. Well, you can answer this if you want. They're expected to make weekly deposits. So all the office managers are being trained on a monthly basis and reminded that if they are collecting money within a week, by the end of that week, they must make a deposit. So the approval of the fundraiser does not indicate a deposit. They're totally separate. Collecting of money indicates a deposit. And you can add to that.
I feel like we're trying to drill in to all of the schools to make sure deposits are being sent to us in a timely manner. So we're talking about it over and over again, and so I feel like that's helping so far.
it's kind of becoming part of the process and procedure that's just standard across
Yes.
the board. Okay.
Yeah,
If you have money, turn it in, is our mantra.
exactly.
Weekly.
No, not sitting in drawers, not sitting in saves, get it to us.
And if a fundraiser spans over a month perhaps, or it's a lengthy fundraiser, they don't hold it all and make a single deposit. They make multiple deposits throughout the fundraiser period.
Wonderful. Okay, perfect. All right, thank you guys for that clarification. All right, any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So the routine orders of business have been approved. That takes us to item number 7, to approve the district representatives who participate in special education, individual education plans for the 24-25 school year.
Good evening. I'm here again this month to request the approval for additional district representation for IEP meetings. The candidates go through a training every year, and they have to complete the training prior to being placed on the board agenda.
Is there a motion then to accept the representatives listed?
I will make a motion to approve.
We have a motion on the table, second?
I'll second it.
All right, I have a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 8, which is the second reading of changes in policies recommended by the ASBA regarding the use of technology resources in instruction.
President Henry, members of the board, our director of technology is out today, so I'm looking at the back to see if anybody was going to pop up. Policy advisory number 787 is the one that addresses technologies, including the use of generative artificial intelligence, the AI programs that we've been discussing. Districts may consider other impacts on existing policy documents regarding ethics, academic integrity, student discipline, based on the needs and expectations as a part of policy GBEA staff ethics, GBEF staff use of digital communication and electronic devices. And districts may also contact policy services for additional assistance. Basically, if you have any questions after having read through the policy last time and this time, myself or perhaps Brian and Stanley can answer any of your questions.
So I wasn't here at the last board meeting, so until I was able to read through the comments listed in the minutes, because we couldn't hear it on the YouTube very well. Just, I guess, and then we had a lady come and call to the public at our special meeting that we had regarding the AI. So it's a progression that is most likely going to happen. I believe when I sat in on some of the curriculum for English, it's almost embedded in some of that high school curriculum already. So it's going to be something that's there. I think my question is, being that the policy already has safeguards on technology in general, we would have those same type of safeguards in place and there would be specific usages of adding the AI into what's being used in our classrooms.
Right, correct. IT is going to vet any use of AI to make sure that it fits within the parameters of cybersecurity and safety. Anything that's used in the schools by teachers or students will be district approved, and the IT department will make sure the guardrails and the safety mechanisms are in place. I did talk with Director Gardner after the call to the public because I wanted, to hear his opinion on her concern, the speaker's concern on asking questions and generating answers. And the uses of AI that we plan for the district, as he explained when he spoke, are intranet or inside the district. And so there won't be an opportunity for students to ask any form of AI. We use questions that might generate a wide parameter of responses. And for example, the one alongside that we may bring before the board as an app to support students who are having anxiety and other things. The company, because it's a self-contained application, the company has its own mechanism in place. They call them guardrails, where it recognizes any question or any use of words that might be a red flag or ring a warning, and then it sends a message to administrators so that they can either intervene or help the students. So you're right, it's coming. And we're probably using it even more than we realize, but if it's going to be officially used by teachers or the district, the IT department will manage it. And would either of you like to add to my answer?
I don't think so. I think that pretty much answers it. Everything is going to be handled in-house that our students or staff would be using to generate, prompts and things of that nature. So all the AI models that we're using have been trained by very strict guidelines.
Any other questions then?
I've got a question. So, my 16th birthday, my parents gave me a typewriter. So that kind of shows my generation. It was a big investment for the family. But anyway, how is AI used? Can you say, I've got to write a term paper on the Civil War, and it just comes out and gives you a term paper?
Liz or Ryan? One or the other or both?
Well, no, I wanted to let her give. So AI, it's a technology where essentially you give it prompts and it will, it trains itself using things that have already been generated. So whether it's text, some AI image generation uses previous images that were generated. And so it essentially learns how to respond to certain prompts by accessing other things that it's been exposed to. So when you put in a prompt to say, hey, come up with a report for this thing, it will access this database for all the information that's gathered. But usually in the case of the things that we have going on in-house, it will say, hey, these are some ideas, these are some responses or some points that you could put in your paper, but it will pretty much limit you to researching those points on your own and hopefully doing your own research and information on that. So
I see. Instead of writing the paper itself, it'll give the student prompts about what they might look like.
Right. And the main uses we're going to use AI for are not necessarily for prompts. That will be for more educators looking for ideas, maybe how to educate their students and generating ideas for how they can use the information in the classroom. The primary uses of AI, I think, will be in our systems that, like Superintendent Dorner said, looking for those outlier students that may be using technology in other ways, and then AI can find patterns in those to recognize students that may need additional help or supervision. And so that will be the primary use of AI.
Okay. Are you one of the people that are down at Lee Williams in the computer center?
No, I work in the IT department. We're located next around the Lee Williams, but we're on a different school district area down there. So
Right.
Yeah.
Dr. Dorner took us on a tour, and I think we went into your area, which is pretty neat.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
they're adjacent to the past campus,
Yeah,
yes.
to the past.
So even nowadays, they have AI checkers for plagiarism.
Mm.
So the newer, like when you run it through to make sure that you did all your citations correct, rather than just using a software, AI is actually going in and checking and making sure that the document is typed up correctly, but also that you didn't use an outside AI source that wasn't affiliated with KUSD, and then copy and paste it into your document. So that's another way that AI is being used. I don't know if we'll be using it that way.
It's, you know, it's a developing technology, and we're always gonna be trying to ride out the waves as they come. So we're trying to be on top of it.
That's great.
Go ahead, Liz.
We actually have a program called Plagiarism Checker that obviously checks for plagiarism, but also AI. So we piloted it this past school year and have moved forward with just implementing it full-time for the coming school year, so.
So even if they wanted to use it that way, they couldn't.
Good.
All right, then, do we need more discussion on the second reading, or are we ready to take action? Okay, then is there a motion to accept the changes to the policy IJNDB, use of technology, resources, and instruction?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion?
Second it.
All right, any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9, approve the recommendation to renew contract RFP 24-03-29 for the athletic trainer services to Banner Physical Therapy. This is the second year of the 5-year award.
President Henry, members of the board, Banner Physical Therapy, last year was our first year, and they were unable to provide a full-time therapist at either campus. So the spending limit, if you saw in there, was only $10,355. This year, currently, they are able to provide one for sure at Kingman High School. They are working to find a second one for Lee Williams High School. So the spending limit will go up, but they will be able to help out with the training for the games and also for practices for football season, and then move into the other sports seasons as well. So hopeful, fingers crossed, we'll have a second one, but this first one will able to help out with some of the other games as well with Lee Williams until we can find a second one, hopefully for the rest of the year.
So are they only gonna be doing football like they did last year, or are they gonna do some of the other sports?
Now that we'll have this one for sure, they'll be able to do all the sports, but it'll just hopefully be able to do them, at least get the football season up and going, and then be able to go back and forth until we can get that second one at the other school for sure.
So this will be somebody who's employed by Banner Physical Therapy, but they're given hours to work with our school district?
We went out for an RFP last year for it because we couldn't hire anyone through the district. There was a position at one point where they were a teacher, and then they did it as part-time as an athletic trainer, if I remember right, and that position we just couldn't fill, so then we decided to go out for an RFP for it. And we had Banner Physical Therapy won the bid for the RFP, but then was unable to fill a position last year. So this is our second year of this bid. It's a 5-year with a renewal every year, so this is our second year trying to find the position to fill it.
So, where do we get the money for this?
So this one's budgeted in as a position for each of the schools, for the high schools.
For the what?
The high schools. So it's this year I believe it's at about $73,000 is what it would cost if they were able to fill the position for each school. It's $73,000 to cover it.
Right, so, well, how much money are we talking about for, is it a part-time physical therapist?
No, it's 40 hours.
Okay, so we're gonna actually hire a full-time physical therapist to work with the athletic teams?
Mhm.
Trying to understand at one of the
Yes.
high schools, okay? And, but are they, when you say RFP, what does that mean again?
Request for proposal.
Okay, and are they actually employed by Banner Physical Therapy, or are they employed by our school district?
By Banner Physical Therapy.
Okay, so Banner Physical Therapy sends them out here
Yes.
to our schools. And do we know who the person would be that we would hire? Do we have names or?
I have, but they sent me the name of the first person, and so they do all their, of course, they have to meet all the requirements through them, and part of the RFP is they have to meet, the requirements of the school district with the fingerprint background and the different
Sure.
requirements there, so.
And do they have training in sports medicine or
Yes,
something like that?
yes.
Okay. But we have enough just for one of these people this year, my
Well, one for
understanding.
each high school, so Lee Williams
Oh,
High
one
School
for
and
each.
Kingman High School would each have one, but as of right now, they're only able to fill one position. They had a second candidate, but then they decided they didn't want to move to the Kingman area, so they're looking for a second one right now.
Okay. And so when they're not working with the sports teams, are they gonna be working with students, like attending class who might have some kind of disability, who they need some help, or they recently injured their leg or broke their arm or something, or?
No,
what
they
do
do
when they're not-
offer some training, so they do, like if we wanted to do some CPR classes, but for the most part, their 40 hours would include staying afterwards for practice, so like football practice and that in the evening, so it's kind of like a mid-afternoon into the evening hours, that way they're there for the games at that night, and then if we have weekend games, that also includes the weekend hours, so that it covers the 40 hours for the full time, for the week.
Yeah, I think that's great. Do other schools have this kind of thing too?
AIA requires us to have a medically trained person available, an athletic trainer.
For the game?
Isn't that correct? 80, Judy? AIA requires you to have,
For football, yes. Because it's, yeah, football is just your highest risk sport that we have, so. We're very excited. Most of the schools that we go to have athletic trainers on site though.
Okay. What is AIA, Arizona?
Arizona Interscholastic Association.
Okay. So, at a high school football game, well, this person will be there for the football games, and then will there be a physician there too, or any other medical professional, or will it just be primarily a physical therapist?
They would travel with our team if our team had to travel. I don't know, is there physicians?
No,
Not
that
typically the games,
person
right?
will act as the medical expert on site.
Okay,
And if we usually have River Medical or someone there if something serious happens, but
I
they can
see.
transport them then to the hospital if it's
Okay.
above their pay grade.
good.
Any other discussion? Is there a motion then to accept item number 9?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, there's a motion on the table and a second. Any other questions or comments?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, approves annual sole source declaration for first due fire protection services.
Madam President, members of the board, for first due fire protection, we have only spent $9,820 last year with them. A lot of our work the last couple of years has been going through SSC now, so we don't spend as much with them, but we wanted to make sure that we keep them as a first or sole source just in case, because they do have our fire alarms, which we have monitored on 24/7 with them, and they also do our backflow inspections as well. But they also are a local company, so if something was to go wrong with the fire alarms and stuff, we were able to call. If we didn't have them as a sole source and we hit our 10,000 spending limit, we'd have to go out and get quotes from 2 other companies, and then we would have to reach out to the other companies that are on contract for purchasing contracts. We would be like Phoenix area, and then we have to wait for them to come from Phoenix, pay travel time and all the extra expenses that way. So keeping first due on a sole source is a good thing for the district, because we're able to call them and they typically come out same day to service the fire alarms if we need something done.
Any other questions?
Do they go out with the fire inspector or the fire marshal when they do their inspections?
No.
I don't think so, I haven't seen them go around.
Do they get a copy of the reports?
Not necessarily unless,
Anything they need to take care of?
only if there's something fire alarm related, we definitely get that.
Is there a motion to approve first due fire protection services as a sole source?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion on the table, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to item number 11, approve an extension of contract with Compass Group SSC as contracted provider for facilities, grounds, and maintenance for the 24-25 school year.
President Henry, members of the board, the district recommends the board approve the contract extension with SSC of the Compass Group as KUSD's contracted provider for facilities, grounds, and maintenance for the 2024-25 school year in the amount of $5,850,737.53. SSC has 86 employees for KUSD, including HVAC techs, a plumber, an electrician, general technicians, locksmiths, custodial, supervisors, day porters, and grounds people.
So is this one of those contracts that are 5 years long? Or
This one
a
is
year
not,
to
as
year
I
to
understand,
year?
it's a year by year, and so any year we can decide.
Correct, and we meet weekly with SSC management, and we are constantly analyzing the scope of work and having conversations to make sure it's in line with our needs. If we were to recommend something different for the 25-26 school year, we'd probably make that recommendation in January, because it's a very quick moving process.
Any other questions?
So this is $5 million per year?
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, it sounds, it's probably reasonable, but I've never been in been in a group where I had to approve a $5 million, or vote on approving a $5 million budget, but it sounds reasonable, I'm sure it is.
And that's something that we constantly analyze, that we want to make sure that it is reasonable.
Well, I think part of, if I remember from other discussions, it's because for Kingman Unified School District to keep HVAC techs and plumbers and electricians on staff is expensive for us, and it's just difficult. And so to have a company that has all of those highly trained, skilled people benefits us in good ways,
Sure.
even if it sounds like a lot of money.
But we certainly will do a cost risk analysis every year.
I'll make a motion to approve Compass Group SSC.
So we have a motion on the table, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 12, to approve check signers for the 24-25 school year is Dr. Gretchen Dorner, Margot Jones, Danette Pincietti, and Tanya Green.
President Henry, members of the board, this is just a housekeeping item, something that we have to approve every year.
Is there a motion then, Judy?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13, to approve Margot Jones as the student activities treasurer for the 24-25 school year.
President Henry, members of the board, this is another housekeeping item, one that we approve every year.
We're just adding to your job.
Yes, that's fine.
Way to take that on.
Long list.
I'll make a motion to
All
approve.
right, we have a motion. Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That brings us to item number 14, to approve Margot Jones to verify the district's ending fiscal year cash balances for the 24-25 school year.
President Henry, members of the board, another housekeeping item, one that we approve every year.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 15, to approve listed donations. Before I ask for a motion on that, so how do schools send in their donations? How do they keep track of that? And is it done monthly? Can they save it up and do it all at one time? I just noticed that sometimes there are certain schools that aren't on here very often, and
It's the school's responsibility. Generally, it is assigned to the office coordinator, the office manager, that when a donation is made, it needs to go before the board, because all donations should be board approved. Occasionally, schools will wait a couple of months to get them on there if it's a typical donation, but they should be giving them to Board Secretary Portillo every month.
Is that one of those things can be counted against us if a school is not listed?
It's not on the compliance questionnaire.
Not that I've seen so far.
Okay.
However, it is, in order, the reason it's on the board agenda is if we accept a donation, and you've heard a few times where books were donated or other items, it's board approved because it makes us go through the due diligence process of making sure we're accepting something that's worthy of use in a school setting. So we want you to always know what's been accepted as a donation. And I have, in my time in the district, once or twice a donation has not been approved.
All right, is there a motion then to approve the listed donations?
I have a question.
Okay.
For those companies that make these donations, is there a tax deduction for them?
There can be, but that would be up to them.
Okay.
That wouldn't be anything that we would help facilitate.
I see. So you don't give them a receipt that this
Well,
donation
this
was
would
for
this would be the nature of a receipt, the board agenda with the value that's approved.
If it was cash, or if it was a cash or a check, absolutely, there would be a receipt and there would be documentation, but items, not as much.
Sort of like when somebody donates a car to charity and they claim it on their income tax. I think the person who donates it decides what it's worth, and then the IRS decides if they're right or wrong. Kind of like that.
This is similar, yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the donations.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So that takes us to item number 16, possible action to approve the fiscal year 24-25 employee handbook.
President Henry and members of the board, district staff internally audit the employee handbook on an annual basis and more frequently if changes in governing board policies, laws, or practices occur. The annual internal review is complete and staff are bringing forward the employee handbook for 2024-25 for possible approval by the governing board. This year, many of the changes made were housekeeping in nature and intended to further clarify existing policies or practices. And the more significant changes were outlined in the memo included in your packets. Staff recommend the governing board approve the 2024-25 employee handbook as presented, and staff further recommend the governing board authorize staff to finalize and disperse the employee handbook and authorize the superintendent or superintendent's designee to make additional changes during the school year as policies, laws, practices, or personnel change.
Is there any questions?
It needed to be done, it was a little outdated with a little bit of that stuff in there.
I'll make a motion to approve the employee handbook for 2024-25 school year.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 17, a possible motion to move into executive session per ASR 38-431.03 to discuss the request to be released from employment by Don Van Beenick.
President Henry and members of the board, Ms. Bednick is here this evening, should you choose to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion to go into executive
I'll
session.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So we'll move into executive session.
You have to tell her to come back.
Yeah. There might not.
That's Benny.
I know, exactly.
Eventually, he just got tired of that same stuff. It's like, yes. I might work out that one.
I don't think so. He tried.
I'm gonna try.
He tried.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to reconvene after our executive session.
Second. All right, we have a motion on the table to reconvene into regular session and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that moves us to item number 19, possible action on a request to be released from a 24-25 contract by Don Benedict.
So I would like to make a motion to accept the resignation of Ms. Benedict effective July 8th, 2024, with the recommendation to impose the liquidating fee of $2,500, but we will not be making the recommendation to report to the state to KUSD staff.
So there is a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So the motion has carried. That brings us to item number 20, board comments. Anyone on the board have any comments? You want to speak on the safety summit?
I do. It was really awesome to have everybody there that came from different points of view and what their roles were with the school, and to reinforce how important they were in our school settings, because we're there as educators, we're not there as enforcers. And if there's an emergency, we need them now, we don't need them yesterday. And that we were able to discuss some of the weaknesses we have in the district and where they are. Like Mount Tipton, we don't have a local sheriff anymore, or deputy that lives up there. And sometimes our calls are a half an hour to 45 minutes long. So we had a really good discussion about options and things we're looking at, and the importance of having an extra body up there in the form of safety and looking out for all the educators. And I'd really like to thank the food workers, the food service company that we have now, that they looked out for their employees and even gave them a bonus. That was definitely a win-win, and I know they were worried about it. That was one of the first things they brought to me was, they were kind of in this limbo if another company was to take them over. And so thank you on behalf of them.
I just had a comment. So I got a message from the KUSD app that we all downloaded as parents, and it was a new change in the finals at the high school level, where finals are now going to be required regardless of attendance. And so it also really spelled out nicely the attendance requirements and when you would lose credit and versus when not. And so I knew that there was some concerns about attendance this last fiscal or school year, but I didn't know that the change was happening for the requirement of finals for all classes. And so I didn't know if we could speak on it or not.
Principal Hannon?
I can speak on it if it's okay.
Yeah, I didn't know.
It's not an agenda item, but it's okay as a
It'd
question.
be considered like a call to the public. You won't have a dialogue or a vote.
Okay.
So we have been talking about it for a couple of years. The policy for finals was put in, to my best of my knowledge, to increase attendance. It has not increased attendance at this point, for the most part. And so in order to have that accountability, all students will take a final. Basically what would happen is the week before finals, I would get all these calls about why my students' absence should have been excused and they shouldn't have to take the final. And this just takes the mud out of the water.
I actually think it's a great idea, because for the college-bound kids, it's a huge shock to go into college and never taken a final. So they haven't developed that long-term memory. So I don't think it's a bad idea. It was just a big change. But I really like how clear the message is regarding the attendance. So good job.
And I think another shout out to the high schools is they coordinated both the articulation of the message, the time, and the delivery.
And it
Across
came across for Kingman High School and Lee Williams High school in the same message, so. Not only did the app work.
The right message was communicated. Excellent. So that did actually lead into the one question I had. I was at a community meeting and someone read an article, I don't remember which newspaper it was, but said that throughout Arizona, our absenteeism is like 48%. So they're saying that most students have almost a 50% absenteeism rate in school. And I was blown away by the article, one, I didn't verify it, but I couldn't imagine that that rate would be that high.
For some students it is, and actually coincidentally, Executive Director Eastman has been looking at attendance. It plays a part in whether we're a high-risk district or not.
Right. Part of the risk assessment, they're looking at graduation rates, dropout rates, our academics, but the attendance portion of it, and I know with our ADM audit that we had last year, we do have a high number of chronic absenteeism, and chronic absenteeism wouldn't be 48%. They're looking at anything that's over 25%. So maybe the chronic absenteeism, at least for us, might be at 48%. I don't know those numbers, so I would need to look into it for you. But that was, as stated, for chronic absenteeism, that would be a 25%, missing 25% of the school year. So I can look into those numbers, but it is a concern that we want to, especially after the pandemic, get the students back in. It's been a consistent drop in attendance.
They're running, Michelle, I think you had numbers, didn't you? Somebody showed me numbers recently where ours are not that high. It's like attendance rates are in the 80s.
Yeah, that is.
So they're not in the 50s or 60s. We're higher than that, but it's still not acceptable. Anything over 10% is considered truant.
Yes. Okay. Great.
And 10% for 148 days is 14 days.
All right then.
I have one more thing. Okay. And I'd like to think I was speaking for the board in welcoming back everybody and their preparedness and being so rested and things to hit the ground running. And to thank the district for all the prep work you've put into the new teachers and preparing so that when the teachers hit the ground running, things are aligned for them and that they know the direction you're going and they have the continued support. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to say thank you too. Same thing. I think we have a very good board here. I mean, very good teaching staff
Good administration.
and administration. We're
Right.
very fortunate.
With that, it brings us to item number 21, which is a motion to adjourn.
I'll make it.
All right. Motion on the table. Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion adjourned. Thank you guys for being here. It was great to see your
Thank you,
faces when
Tony.
you came back.